welcome to Meet the Candidates. This is Brockton Community Access's attempt to educate the voters of Brockton and surrounding areas about all the candidates in the different races this election for November 4th. Today we have with us a familiar face, Matt Mcdonough. Matt, welcome to Brockton Community Access.
Thank you for the invitation. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Good to see you. This time I'm very much enjoying sitting in this chair. I'm the host and you're the candidate. Okay, we had a nice primary election.
That's right.
And you're the nominee, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what we're going to do and talk about is let people in Brockton, you're from Marshfield,
Right.
and you've been around on the campaign trail, let people know who you are, what your past experience is, and why you're running for Plymouth County Register of Probate.
Thanks, Mark. First and foremost, I want to thank you because we were the only two candidates on the Democratic side for Register of Probate, and we spent about 8 months together on the campaign trail. And it's a great sacrifice, and I do appreciate your civility and the ideas that you contributed to the campaign and the great discussions that we had over the last 8 months before the primary. So thank you. I really do appreciate it.
We proved that campaigns can be civil.
Absolutely, and hopefully that will set an example for other campaigns in the future. But as you said, I'm from the town of Marshfield. I grew up in Plymouth County. I grew up in the towns of Situate and Kingston, went through the Silver Lake school system. After that, I went out to Worcester for my undergraduate degree at College of the Holy Cross. And from there, I went to Boston College Law School, where I got two great things. One was my legal education, and probably first and foremost was meeting my beautiful wife, Suzanne.
There you go.
And second was getting a great legal education from the Jesuits over at BC. So, and Suzanne and I, we had a lot of different options to look at when we graduated from BC, but we both were committed to being public servants. We wanted to use our legal education to help other people. So we both, after we passed the bar, went to work in the district attorney's office. I went to Norfolk County, and my wife Suzanne went to Plymouth County, where she still works today in the city of Brockton, helping people.
Well, being an assistant DA is, I would say, sacrifice to the paycheck, okay? When you know what lawyers get paid,
Right.
When you're doing an assistant district attorney, plus your caseload,
Right.
it's got to be massive.
It is a huge caseload. It is a lot of time. And Suzanne and I were willing to make those sacrifices when we were in our salad years. After we got married, bought a house, and we were towards our third child, it became clear one of us had to leave the district attorney's office and go into private practice. So 2 years ago, I started a small practice with my father, Joe Mcdonough, over in Norwell, where we're a small family practice. Anybody who comes through the door, we try to help them with their legal problems.
So what do you see as issues in this race? It's a little-known county office, okay? It's bad enough people don't know what the county commissioner does or
Right.
the county treasurer does.
Right.
I think they all know what the Register of Deeds does because John Buckley does a television show
He does.
here in Brockton and in Plymouth. So he's educated people about it. But, you know, why probate?
It's a county position, but as you well know, it's under the trial courts. So it's not having anything to do with county government per se, where our Register of Deeds, our county commissioner, and our Register of Deeds county commissioner and our county treasurer are all under county government. I've worked with them over the last 4 years as Marshfield Selectman representative to the Plymouth County Advisory Board. And that's a totally different system of government. But obviously the Register of Probate is integral in dealing with family issues. When people are going down to Obery Street in Plymouth or here in Main Street in Brockton, they're dealing with some of the most difficult circumstances, whether it's the death of a loved one and they're probating that person's estate, whether they're dealing with a divorce and all of the different issues that come under the umbrella of divorce, whether they're going for an adoption, which is the one real bright spot about the registry. They need somebody who's going to be compassionate, somebody who understands the system, and somebody who's going to go beyond the confines of the job description itself and try to provide outreach and services to folks that go beyond just the legal filings.
Now, unlike criminal court, if
Right.
you're a person that is not of means,
Right.
if you're not of means in the criminal system, you can have a public defender or somebody represent you.
Correct.
In probate, it's not like that.
No,
You
it's
don't
not.
have anybody to represent you except lawyer of the day. This
That's
has
right.
been an issue we talked about on the campaign trail. It's still getting talked about. Talk about that. I mean, anybody that's running is fortunate enough to follow a great man, Bob McCarthy, who's retiring. He set some nice standards, but there's always room for improvement. So talk about maybe lawyer of the day specifically, and then any other issues involving the office.
Absolutely. In Plymouth County, Attorney of the Day program is very unique. In some counties, it's just in one of their buildings if they have multiple courthouses in the county. And in some places, it's only for a few days a week. In Plymouth County, Bob McCarthy, our great register, who I'm very proud to have Bob's endorsement in this race, 14 years ago, he started, and the Attorney of the Day program was a desk out in the hallway in front of the bathroom. There was no opportunity to have a discreet conversation between the attorney and the client, and you're talking about some of the most sensitive issues that you could have. So Bob saw an opportunity when DCAM, essentially the engineering group for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, was building a new courthouse down in Oberry Street, and the new courthouse also on Main Street in Brockton. And he put his thoughts in to say, hey, can we have an attorney of the day office directly next to the front desk so that we have some place where there can be a discreet conversation and these attorneys can voluntarily give their time to serve people's needs when they come in from 9 to 1, 5 days a week in both Brockton and Plymouth. So Bob grew that program, and he made sure that it had a permanent home right next to the front desk in the probate court system. And as you and I talked about in the primary campaign, we both made a commitment to make that program even more valuable and keep it along as long as possible. One of the things that I think I can bring to the table is to the recruitment process. You're asking attorneys to give their time for free, and it's a staffing issue. It's done through the Pilgrim Bar Advocates, and that's a group I'm intimately familiar with because I'm a member. I'm somebody who works as an attorney of the day in Hingham District Court and also in Quincy District Court, helping indigent folks who don't have means to get other attorneys. So I know how that program works. I know the grant process that they go through. I will definitely be there as the next registrar to make sure that that money is going to be there for the future. And then I'll be there networking with the attorneys who participate in the program and with attorneys who haven't yet participated with the program to try to recruit new attorneys to make sure that this one opportunity that folks may have, especially folks who don't have a lot of money, and maybe their only shot at getting good legal advice as they go through the family court system.
Okay, so talk about what you want to do to improve or enhance what's already there.
Absolutely. So I've participated, and I'm the only candidate in this race who is an attorney, and I'm the only candidate in this race who's participated as an attorney of the day in both Brockton and Plymouth courts. I think that when you come in there as the attorney of the day, you have to maximize your time as much as possible. And one of the things that I saw that slowed us down a little bit was having to go get extra forms or having to have a form be brought out and then brought back into the room. I think something that we can do is to put a computer into each room, the attorney of the day office, both in Brockton and in Plymouth, have it be password protected so that each attorney of the day has their own password access, so there's accountability and responsibility with the system. And all of the forms will be online. So you can sit there as an attorney of the day, work with your client as they're in the room with you, help them to fill out the forms, and print them on scene in the office so that folks don't have to take the information, compile it in their own manner, put it onto the forms, and bring it back to the probate offices. They can simply take the printed form and then walk to the desk, which is only a few feet away. I think that will help move the system along a little bit faster.
Now, the attorney of the day cannot represent the people when they go into court. They can assist them up to a point, and then they help somebody else.
They don't walk them into court and represent them in court. So their representation is confined to what happens in the attorney of the day office when people come in, they sign in first thing in the morning, and it's first come, first served from 9 till 1 till lunchtime. And once that list is exhausted, the attorney of the day services are done for the day. They don't go into court for the afternoon session to represent people individually.
Now, the resources there, I noticed this year in the state budget that there was a slight bump in the budget for Register of Probate's office. But again, resources, computers cost money. Any service you provide to the public costs money. Are
Right.
they there? Is that something that you need to look at?
That's something I've spoken to Register McCarthy about, and hopefully if I prevail on November 4th, that would be something I would be addressing during the transition period. But you bring up an interesting point, because the budget, unlike county government, it's not a local budget. It's coming through the trial court system. So you have to have a registrar who's going to be able to work with the judges who run the trial court system and the administrator, Mr. Spence, who runs the trial court system as well, to try to make your best case as to what resources you're going to need to be able to serve the families in Plymouth County.
Okay. What have you heard out there on the campaign trail, other than the proverbial question is, what the heck is Register of Probate?
What is a Register of Probate? And you and I, we had a similar response. We kind of boiled it down to say it's kind of like a clerk of courts. Most people understand what that is. The responses I got from people were interesting over the course of the summer and the last few months. One particular issue came up with realtors, and they were telling me that when they went through the probate process and they were trying to get licensed to sell for pieces of real estate that were going through an estate, they didn't know whether to go informal or formal through the process of probate. And that became an issue because one has a longer period of time where somebody may be able to make a claim to a piece of property than the other. So that's something that, although the Uniform Probate Code went into effect in 2011, that was a big question mark that was left over. So it was interesting to me to see how it's not just about the people at the front counter. There's all kinds of other services that are tangential that may be affected by the work that we do in the probate court system. So real estate attorneys and realtors both had spoken to me about that issue, and obviously I'll have an open ear for their issues and their concerns as we go forward.
Now, if you're successful, once and you get there, what would you do to educate people about probate and let people know about what the office can do or can't do for them?
Right. And as we talked about, you can't give advice, and there's a fine line between educating people about the process of the probate court system and actually giving them legal advice. But I think we can still provide a valuable service by going out into the public, visiting councils on aging or any other forums within a community where folks want to receive the register, and do a register on the road trip type of event, and we can get around the whole county. That'd be my goal. I want to make sure that we meet them where they live, where they're having their concerns about what they should be doing for their future. And if we do find that people have more questions about legal advice than they do about process, then maybe we can recruit some of the attorneys from the bar associations in Plymouth County to assist us when we go on our road trips.
Now, something I found out about being from Brockton and dealing with the multiculturalism that there is in the city.
Yes.
Do you know if there are any people in Lawyer of the Day program that actually speak the languages that some of the folks speak, like Cape Verdean Creole and Haitian Creole in Brockton?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure how many people are multilingual in the Attorney of the Day program. That's something I'll ask about. I met with the Haitian Community Partners organization last week, and they were expressing their concerns on that exact point about interpreters.
Yeah.
They actually didn't ask about the attorneys, but they said, the interpreters, we need to make sure we have the best interpreters and that they're available in a very easy manner, that we can get, put in online. And some of the concerns that were raised were, we can make the forms multilingual, but how does that transition once it goes into the courtroom before a judge who may not speak that language?
Right.
So those are issues that we need to address.
Okay, so definitely got your work cut out for you in that area, because
Definitely.
I found out just going, dealing with the court system for different things in the course of my lifetime that when you went there, again, criminal side,
Yes.
interpreters are provided. Are interpreters? I don't know the answer to this question, so maybe
You can request the interpreters.
Okay.
Obviously, we need to have a system where the judges can understand the litigants who are before them. But it's a matter of access and making sure that that access is as smooth as possible. And it's tough to do that when you're not somebody who doesn't speak English. You constantly have to change your paradigm and think, what is this person going to experience from the moment they arrive to the courthouse when it comes to issues of signage or getting directions, figuring out what courtroom you need to be in, what forms need to be filled out. It could be a daunting process if English is not your first language. So it's something that I will be very cognizant of as the next Register of Probate.
Now, do you think your experience with that we talked about, we know you're a Marshfield selectman, you were a
Yes.
member of the school committee in Marshfield, but the advisory board, I know, again, it's a little differentiation. It's Plymouth County Register of Probate, but
Right.
under the state court system,
Right.
okay? But the advisory board, your experience on the advisory board representing Marshfield in bringing Marshfield concerns to the whole county, is that going to be helpful to you in this office?
I think it will be, because for the last 4 years I've been Marshfield's representative to the Plymouth County Advisory Board, and that's allowed me to have meetings quarterly, if not twice a year, with all of the other selectmen representatives and the city council representative from Brockton, where we get together in a room, and we're not just talking about the issues with our budget with the county, we're talking about issues each individual community has, and we kind of pick each other's brains about what programs exist in different communities and where we could borrow good ideas from one another. So I've had a good relationship, and a bipartisan relationship with many different selectmen, whether they be Republican, Democrats, or unenrolled, about what issues affect their communities. And I definitely will be using that network as I go forward.
Now, we're pretty close to Election Day. We're not going to
We are.
specifically date this today because we're going to run it all the way up through the election.
Sure.
But campaign's heated up a lot
has.
since the primary's over.
It has.
You have an opponent. I've always been taught never to say the opponent's name, so that's your call on that.
Understood.
How do you differ from your opponent that you're running for against?
Well, it's been a different campaign. Your campaign with me in the primary was very civil, and we focused on the issues. And I've continued to do that. My opponent, however, he's a little bit more negative. And it has been a campaign where he wants to talk about my family and other issues that have nothing to do with what the Register of Probate can do for Plymouth County families. So constantly I've tried to redirect the campaign back to the issues that matter to the folks who are going to be voting on November 4th. So that's been the challenge in the general election.
Now, I'm sure you have events coming up. I know there's one coming up in Hanson and other communities. I mean,
Correct.
it's not like we all got a lot of time to talk about the office when
Right.
we were running. Everybody's focused on the governor's race and other races, a state rep race or a state senate race. How do you break that mold and get people more interested in it, like to go to that part of the ballot and vote to begin with? I mean, I think the only thing after the county offices are the ballot questions.
One other county candidate has a joke where he says that these county offices are so far down on the ballot that we almost fall off the paper. And it's funny, it grabs people's attention, but it's actually true. In 2010, which is probably the most comparable election to this year's election, it was also a governor's year election, and there were contested county races. There was a county commissioner race that was decided by only about 1,600 votes between the Republican and the Democratic candidate. But 20,000 people who voted that day failed to vote in that race. So, as we call it, those were blanks, 20,000 blanks. So it is a tough job, but I've been trying to convince people not only to show up to vote, but to educate yourself about each office on the ballot and finish the ballot. You have to have your voice heard on every vote.
Well, I think that candidate said, do it from the other way. Do it at the bottom and go the other way. And that's not a bad idea.
It's not a
because,
bad idea.
I mean, I think right now you're going to have a little bit of confusion on the ballot questions because a yes vote and a no vote may not mean what you think it is. That's why the Secretary of State sends out a booklet.
Yes.
But even that is hard to navigate and hard to understand. So, I mean, one thing, visibility is a big thing in the race. Okay?
It really is.
4x8 signs.
Yes,
When they're out there, we get the attack of the 4x8 signs over at the fairgrounds in Brockton.
Yes.
They're multiplying by the day. They just
Right.
keep growing and
Right.
growing. The ones that are, some of them are up there with permission, and then there are a few that aren't there anymore. So
Right.
that's interesting. But going around the county, how's this? How are you dealing with this whole issue running with the family? 3 children.
Well,
and
Suzanne and I have 3 kids now. Kara's 5, Coleman's 4, and Katie is now 1 and just started running around the house and has a little vocabulary now. So, I have to balance my family life against the campaign life. It was a long discussion between Suzanne and I before I got into the race. But, we get up early in the morning because the kids are up early, and that's my time to be a daddy and spend time with the kids. And I always try, if I can, to be home when they get home from school and have dinner with them before I go to the evening shift of campaigning, which is usually, as you know, 2 or 3 events every night spread across the county. So it's a lot of work and it's a big commitment, but I think it's something that will be worthwhile to do. I think I can help out a lot of people as the next Register of Probate who are going through tough stretches.
Okay, and talk about, at this point, can people get involved? Do you need help for the campaign?
I do,
What
yes.
are the needs?
Yeah, the number one need that I ask everybody is please vote. Second, if they have time on election day and they want to help me out at a polling location, that's a big help to me. There's going to be a lot of campaigns out there who are IDing the voters and pushing them out with the phone calls and the door knocking. I highly doubt the Register of Probate is going to be the one to motivate somebody to come out to vote if they're not going to vote already. But for the folks who are coming to the polls, if they see my signs, those 4-foot by 8-foot signs, or they see somebody they know from their neighborhood holding that stick sign, that sends a message. And maybe they'll finish the ballot and maybe they'll consider voting for me. So if anybody wants to help me out on election day, they can communicate with me through my website at mattmcdonough.org. That's the easiest way to do it. Or they could give me a call at 617-283-5052.
Okay, and anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to get out there? Any specifics? I'm going to give you a chance right at the end to sell yourself and hammer the message home. But
We're already at the end?
I don't know. Where are we at for time, Patrick? Probably about 10 minutes, maybe? I'm getting a cue from the control room. I just got the 10-minute cue, so
Okay.
we have 10 minutes.
Well, going back to the office, there are a couple other things I just wanted to discuss, and that's the need to continue the tradition that Register McCarthy has made with regards to victim witness advocates. Domestic violence and drug addiction are 2 issues that frequently bring people to the front door of the registry, especially in dealing with custody issues, dealing with divorce. Those are issues that I've been passionate about as an assistant district attorney and also as an elected official in the town of Marshfield. With respect to domestic violence advocacy, when folks come in looking for a restraining order, they should have an advocate there, somebody who knows the restraining order law, the 209A law, and they understand the process. And Register McCarthy has worked with the Massachusetts Office of Victim Assistance to make sure that we have that money to be able to have those people in the office. That's something that I'm going to make a commitment to pursuing in the future, making sure that we always have those resources available. And if they need to be expanded as demand increases, I'll make sure I'm there for that advocacy as well. And also on the issue of prescription drug overdoses. And you and I were just discussing those issues. They affect Brockton, they affect Marshfield, they affect Hingham, Hull, Plymouth. These drugs, they're blind to who you are as a person. They're so addictive and they're so destructive. As a selectman, I've worked to create a prescription drug drop-off program that has now been spread across Plymouth County through District Attorney Cruz. He's using money that's been forfeited from drug dealers to pay for these boxes to go across the county. The first one was in Marshfield. I was very proud to have that there, and we spread it to the town of Pembroke, and then from there the DA's office used their funds to spread it across the county. Those are issues that I will still be passionate about as the next register, and I'll be working with our other local law enforcement officials to make sure that we have as strong a voice as possible to get people the resources they need, whether it's to protect their family in a domestic violence situation or to get the help and treatment that they need when a loved one is going through a drug addiction.
Now, the Brockton is being approved to get a drug court.
It's in process.
Is that something that is on the criminal side, or would the probate office have anything to do with it?
It's on the criminal side. And
okay.
In Quincy District Court, where I was an assistant district attorney for several years, we had a drug court. And I got to be the assistant district attorney who worked in the drug court frequently. And it's a good program. It's not a program where somebody who's a first-time offender walks in. They're evaluated by probation. They screen out people with a violent history. They try to laser focus on people who have repetitive drug charges and repetitive issues with addiction that need the extra help and the extra services through the courts. And drug court graduation day is a tearjerker. When you see people who've gone the 18 months and they've done everything they can, and they've done it all the right way, and they've maintained their sobriety, and they see a new chapter, and they see some hope in their life, it really is a wonderful thing. And I think the drug court would be a great addition for the city of Brockton.
Okay, so last but not least, probably of about 5, I would think. I'm getting cues from over there. Sell yourself. I don't have to tell you how to do that. Talk to the voters. You can look directly in the eye if you want. And
thank you, Mark. My name is Matt Mcdonough. I'm running for Register of Probate. I hope you'll consider my candidacy. I'm somebody who has devoted his legal career to helping other people, whether it was as an assistant district attorney, as a selectman, dealing with issues of domestic violence, opiate abuse. I've been passionate about going beyond the job description of my jobs that I've had in the past. And I will carry on that tradition as the next Register of Probate. I'm very honored to have Register Bob McCarthy's endorsement in this race, somebody who has been a dedicated public servant to be that friendly face for families when they're going through the worst situations in the probate court system. I think I can do the same thing. So I hope you'll consider me. I'm available at mattmcdonough.org. Reach out to me. I have a site where you can sign up, you can leave me some comments, you can tell me about what's going on in your community and how the probate court can help you and your family.
thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Mark, thank you so much.
You're watching Meet the Candidates. My guest today was Matt Mcdonough, candidate for Register of Probate for Plymouth County. Brockton Community Access, we take our role very seriously to educate voters as to who their choices are. You'll be able to see other candidates in the weeks and days ahead at this point, leading up to November 4th. But most of all, please make sure that you exercise your fundamental constitutional right and vote. If you do not vote, do not complain. That's all I have to say. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
We will have more candidates and more issues coming up soon. Take care.